Good morning, everyone. My name is James Kopp, and I am the Vice President for Nonprofit Solutions at the Cathedral Corporation. I want to thank everyone for attending the webinar today on how to get your on- and offline communications in sync. I do know and understand how busy all of you are managing your annual campaigns. It is year-end, so this is a busy time of the year. So I do want to thank each and every one of you for attending the program today. Can everybody see my screen? Would you mind typing in the comment section whether or not you can see my screen? I would be greatly appreciative. I want to make sure that everybody can see it. Can people see? Somebody could type in. Well, I am going to assume then that people then can see my screen. And so what I'd like to do, I'd like to begin the program. One of the things that you're going to realize today is that it is impossible in the context of a half hour or 40 minutes to really present fully the subtleties in a linking program with both on and offline communication. So the purpose of this webinar today is really to get you to think about how you may or may not be integrating your online and your offline communications as it relates to your annual program. And so if this webinar has any value to you, we've done a number of these this year, it's to get you to think differently about what it is that you are or what it is that you are not doing. So that really is the goal today. And again, I will move fairly quickly through this. The strength of this program is really based on your questions. So I'm going to ask you to ask questions if you have them. I will try to get to all of them. If I can't, you can email me at jkopp@cathedralcorporation.com, and I would be more than happy to address those questions as we move through. So, so let's begin if we can, and we'll see what comes up as a result of it. Firstly, let's ask a question, and there's going to be some lag with these slides, right? Are your annual fund solicitations out of sync? You know, you can have the best appeal case in the world, but if it isn't backed up with the smart use of data that is integrated across many, many channels, you might as well not be asking. And in fact, if your data and your ask is not integrated across all of your channels, what you're going to do is you're going to harm your ability to attract, to retain, and to manage your loyal donors. So in this presentation, we're going to look at the wide world of fundraising channels. When I was practicing this webinar, I had to practice using the words wide world. Say it 4 times fast and you'll see what I mean. There's a painful truth that I'm going to present to you about being out of sync with your online and your offline communication program, because being out of sync does portend serious, serious difficulties for you and serious, serious difficulties for your current donors or for those constituents that you wish to attract as donors. And the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 17 suggestions. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. They're suggestions. They're designed to get you to think differently about what you do in the on and offline world. As a result of this webinar, you're not going to go and walk away and design a top-down synced annual fund program, but what you will be able to do is ask the right questions in your consideration of what a synced program should look like, okay? So why are you here? I know why you're here, because once upon a time, you probably wrote a really, really good solicitation letter, really good letter. And your donors opened the letter, and maybe they went to the website to give or to learn more about who you were. And that's the last time you ever heard from them. So you might as well take in that letter, put barbecue fluid on it, and use it as kindling for your Memorial Day barbecue. We've all been there. It was a brilliant letter. We're smart people, right? People respond to us. But it didn't work. So what do? You wrote an even better letter. It was a really good ask. And you put a QR code at the bottom of the letter, because that's what your direct mail provider told you you should. And then you spent money and put a personalized URL address at the bottom of the letter. Oh, and a link to your institutional Facebook page and a picture of Elvis. Thank you very much. Just because, well, Elvis, motivates people. You put all these neat things at the bottom of the letter. Great letter, all these links to all of these technologies, and you get nothing. You still don't hear from these constituents. You get absolutely nothing, no return. Why? You wrote a great letter. You put all of those emerging technologies in the context of your letter. What happened? Let's talk about that. Advances in technology, and we need to understand that technology is advancing rapidly, has provided you guys with a lot of different channels to secure money. And unless you know how to integrate all of those channels, what's happening is that those channels become drains down which your donors and your annual fund donors disappear. Your efforts to strengthen your annual campaign may in fact be hurting your annual campaign. I want you to consider something. I don't want you to get me wrong. There's been an explosion for fundraising over the last 40 years, and that's a good thing. I want you to think about how far we have come as development officers. I was the vice president of several universities and chief fundraiser for a very large faith-based organization. But think about how far we've come in the last 40 years. We started out asking people for money face-to-face. Right? Giving is an intimate act. I call it an unnaturally intimate act. Giving away your resources to someone is not natural. We as human beings are meant to hoard our resources. And giving it away is not something that we're hardwired to do. So it's personal. We've gone from door-to-door solicitation to direct mail solicitation. So we moved away from actually getting money pressed into our palms to getting money pressed into envelopes. Started in the 1930s. Ooh. And then somebody figured out that when the phones went in the house, we could call people up and ask them for their money. Then probably in the early 90s, we started asking people for money through email. We'd send them an email and we'd ask them to mail us the money. And then we went to giving online. Started out really in the late 90s. Click on here and you can give online. And then someone came up with the idea that if they put a QR code at the bottom of the letter, people would give. You know what QR codes are developed for? Inventory control. Inventory control. Boeing aircraft use them on their airplanes to construct them. But we figured out, we put a QR code down there, people can click, makes it easier for them to give. And then someone figured out, well, probably the same guy that figured out you could get money through the phone, we're going to text somebody on their cell phone, and they can give by texting. And then social media appeals. Facebook just launched their giving platform. And lastly, crowdsourcing philanthropy. So kind of pulling in on the Kickstarter method. We'll put something out there and we'll get people to give. You know what's really interesting about this circle that you see here, guys? I told you that giving is an intimate act, right? I want you to think about something. Look how far our giving solicitation strategy has moved from that intimacy. We've moved from mail to phone. Look how far we've gotten away from actually sitting down with a human being and explaining why they should give. It's amazing. We've moved further and further and further away from the object of our request, which is actually a human being. I've got friends of mine that are development officers that have never asked somebody face-to-face for money. It blows me away. So what's next? And so where are we going? So I just want you to think about this. This is really potentially scary. I don't know if you guys have watched the interviews with Eric Snowden, but he talks a lot about metadata and big data. And corporations have been using big data for years. But I want you to think about something. These three things are coming up, and they're coming up quickly. Location solicitation. So say my good friend Anne-Marie Judge, who works at Albany Law School, happens to be driving down somewhere in Rensselaer, and her location, an agency in Rensselaer has her cell phone, and they acquire the ability to see where she is. And as she's driving by one of the charitable agencies, she gets a text message and says, "Hey, Anne-Marie, stop in this food bank you're a block away and make a gift." Cognitive solicitation. Cognitive solicitation means a nonprofit grabs all of your data, all of your consumer data, what websites you go on, where you shop, where you eat, and other charitable organizations, takes all of that data, applies an algorithm for it, and builds out a profile. And so you start getting solicitations from nonprofits based upon the likelihood of you giving to that nonprofit. Predictive modeling. Companies do it now. We all get offers from companies, ad banners in Google, that are places that like we've shopped in before. Cognitive solicitation. And then Bitcoin as charitable currency. Bitcoin is charitable currency. For those of you that don't know what Bitcoin is, I would encourage you to research it, and when you figure it out, give me a call, because I have no idea what it is. But I know it's a different kind of money. And you can probably list even more options. This is scary stuff. Okay, but again, getting further and further away from the person. Possibilities will also mean trouble for the development director who has to juggle them. You've got a lot of possibilities and a lot of platforms by which you can ask people for money. And the thing about Americans and the thing about development officers is that we're always looking for the next best thing. We are the poster child for early adopters. We're the first ones to adopt the technology and to go out there and see if it works. Because the bottom line is a lot of our annual programs are in decline. So any innovation that can help us, we embrace. And I'm really going to challenge you not to be an early adopter. So the temptation is to try all or nothing. Either you throw every option possible into the channel at every possible donor and hope it sticks, or you just say, the hell with it, and I'm going to stick to what I've done for the last 40 years. You know what? It is not an either-or scenario, and if you consider it an either-or scenario, you're limiting yourself, okay? The answer to both dilemmas is getting your ass in sync, both within your organization and then across as many channels as you dare to use. And the word dare is important, all right, because you've got to have an understanding of what the implications are of these new channels. When I was reviewing this webinar deck last night, I found out that I think the most important part of this is not what I intended it to be, and I want to talk a little bit about that. Charity begins at home, which is why integrating your in-house resources is very, very critical. Getting your direct mail, we all use direct mail, and digital solicitation in sync poses special problems to the institution that's trying to do it. And they're often overlooked when analyzing the success of multi-channel appeals. I want you to think about this. This is really important. In most colleges, universities, faith-based organizations, the following paradox applies. Direct mail is managed by you guys. The development office manages the direct mail component. So it's managed by internal constituents. It's managed by the people that are asking for money. Another office or staff group manages the institution's digital resources. Often the IT office, and God knows we don't want them talking to development, our donors. The IT folks, the media group, the communications group. They're managed by a distinct management team within the nonprofit that really does not have a thorough understanding of what we as development officers are trying to do. Some of your development offices may have a small digital component or social media component, but ultimately the digital aspects of your fundraising program reside in a different office for which they have very little understanding of what the complexities of a development office and the development ask are. The two offices have little in common, and they may not communicate regularly or at all. All right, your communication probably is transactional. I need this done. To which you hear, we can't do that. That's not uncommon to hear. If any IT people are on the phone, you have my apologies. In addition, there are expectations of difference. Direct mail has a well-established metric that are highly measurable and donor-centric. We know what ROI rate should be. We know what standard market return rate should be. Digital resources are managed under a much looser band of evaluation, and they're measured by a host of internal beliefs and assumptions, few of which are manageable. You are measurable. You're going to have a hard time if you go online trying to figure out what the average click-through rate is for a URL. And you will find benchmarks, but the variances behind those benchmarks are widely variant. All right? It's a new technology. It's a new technology. So we measure them differently. So they're created in a silo, and we measure them differently. It's a problem. Remember that direct mail is external. It's measured by the donor. Digital resources, as it stands now, this is not the ideal, are internal. They're developed and evaluated by internal stakeholders. Think about your website. Who has the ultimate control of your university's or diocese website? It's the IT office. What kind of ability do you have to shape the feel of that? Very little. Your direct mail program is managed by you, it's evaluated by you, it's critiqued by you, it's shaped by you. So these two things, your online and offline communication programs, are formed, shaped, and measured by different sets of heuristics. So do you see where the potential problem lies here, guys? Let me illustrate how this is a problem. Ms. Big Bucks gets a direct mail solicitation letter from What's the Matter University. That's What's the Matter You. That's from Bullwinkle. It's a really good episode. I'd recommend it. It's clear and it's direct in its call for support. So the letter clearly says what they wanted, what they should do. But Ms. Big Bucks really is never given to you. So they go on your website prepared to give. But when she reaches your landing page, it doesn't look anything like your letter. Completely different in look, feel, and form. She thinks she's in the wrong place. She can't find the online giving page because it's buried 5 clicks deep. And even when she persists, the online donation page is so complicated to fill out or feels so insecure that instead of giving, she just goes. She gives up. I want you to think about, is this the case between your online and offline communication programs? I think it may be for some of you. And that's where a lot of us give up too, but there's some help here, okay? There's some help here. There's some things that we can do to help. Integrating the ask across all the channels is a lot simpler than it sounds, and it's a lot less expensive than you imagine. So what it takes to get this to happen, to get the sync in-house, you need to put the focus both on your direct mail and on your web assets to a strong call to action and to integrate the message, the look, the feel across every platform and channel. I'm going to give you an example of an annual fund program that has done that well. And I've done a lot of university sites. I'm going to use a nonprofit that historically faith-based programs don't do a good job with this. I would encourage you to check out the Diocese of Dallas. They do an $8 million annual program. It's cathedral.org, and go to their giving page. Their giving page is identical to the call for action on the direct mail side. Jim Urbanis is the director of development there. She's a sharp guy, but they've worked very hard that when you get the letter and when you go online, it's the same experience. It's seamless. So I'm a half hour before lunch, so I'm going to give you 17 points in 15 minutes. This is free advice to unpack at your leisure in no particular order of importance. So here we go. And remember what I said. The purpose of this webinar is to get you to think critically about this issue. It's not going to give you the final solution for your in and out of sync. No one can do that in the context of a webinar. And if someone says they can, don't attend the webinar. Point 1. Your online presence does not eat into your direct mail campaigns. I hear this a lot. We've got a strong online, but it's killing our direct mail. No, it is not. Okay? People have what are called media correlates, meaning that people have preferred media channels that they live and breathe in, okay? So, for example, a early boomer or an early mature is going to have a preference to a direct mail channel to give to charity, but they have a preferred online channel through which to learn about their charity, okay? Media correlates. So having a strong online program is not going to kill your direct mail program. So if somebody tells you that, don't believe them. You can have both, okay? Point 2, older donors just don't live in Florida. They live online and they live everywhere. 78% of people over the age of 65 are online, okay? They are online. Now, older people are going to tend to support you through direct mail channels, but they love to learn about things through online communities. My father got a computer when he was 74, and he was teaching me how to do code when he was 77. All right? Understand, most of these people are retired. They have a great deal of time on their hands, and, you know, anybody that isn't working, that has a great deal of time on their hands, is going to spend a lot of time online. So older donors are online. If somebody says, well, they're not online, that's nonsense. They're online, they're out there, and they're social media, they're Facebook, they're doing all of it. Point 3, online donors produce great value for your organization. I want to talk a little bit about this. Online donors will give gifts, maiden gifts, that are larger than direct mail gifts. They, however, are less sticky than your direct mail contributors, all right? Online donors tend to give to an organization and then move on. In one of my earlier webinars, I talked about the competitive landscape of philanthropy. Online contribution channels foster that competition, all right? To give you an example, when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, my wife and I gave a pretty big gift to the Red Cross. I have never given a gift to the Red Cross in my life. I give to other agencies, relief agencies, not the Red Cross. I have never given a gift to the Red Cross since, okay? But the gift that I gave them was a lot larger than a gift I would have given them through direct mail because it's easier. I've got my credit card. So online donors produce great value for your organization, but online donors can also hurt your development program if you do not convert them into loyals. They will create performance spikes in your annual campaign that you're going to be held accountable for. So if your campaign goes up $150,000 in 1 year, you know your vice president is going to raise your goal by that, and the odds are that 80% of those online donors that made a maiden gift are going to walk. So you're going to be shorthanded. This is critical. Multi-channel donors deliver more value than single-channel donors. Donors that give through direct mail, donors that live on your Facebook page, donors that read your email are going to make gifts through whatever channel they give at a higher rate and at a higher value than people that just give through direct mail. You know, you may send out an alumni newsletter or the alumni magazine, okay, through direct mail to your donors. Make sure that alumni magazine is online. Make sure that you're sending emails out to your alumni that highlight key stories within the alumni magazine. So look at the communication programs that you're pushing out in one channel and figure out how you can break up the salient messaging in that and push it across multi-channels, your Facebook page. So when a university is doing an alumni magazine and they're mailing it out, what I always say to them is, don't just mail it. Put a link to the digital asset on your Facebook page. Send an email out to your major donors that highlights the key stories within there. Break out each communication that you send to your loyal donors and push it across every channel, okay? And in the channels that you push it out to, let them know that it exists in other places. So if you can convert a loyal donor to a Facebook subscriber because you've told them that the alumni magazine is on Facebook, what you're doing is you're creating a more intimate experience. You're pulling the donor closer into the life of the organization. Your goal should be to have every one of your loyal donors touching the organization on at least 3 channels. Point 5, integrate your channels. So I talked about that earlier in terms of how to do it. Taking salient and relevant communication and pushing it across every one of the channels that are possible, and doing that in a way that is creative. Don't just send out an email with a link to a PDF of your alumni magazine if you've mailed it to the person. That's not an integration of channel. That's just pushing out more content that's going to end up in their delete box, okay? Take out relevant pieces of it and drop it in there that may be of interest to the donor. You know a lot about these people, so integrate creatively across all of the channels. Before the alumni magazine goes out in the mail, send out a text-only email to your loyal donors that says, hey, in the next 2 weeks, you're going to be getting the alumni magazine. We'd love to know what you think about it. Go on the Facebook page and fill out this survey. You see how we're closing the loop across all of the channels? This is critical. Give donors a strong page to land on. I went on last night, I just clicked in 20 universities that I know, none of which are represented here today, and I looked at their online, I looked at the development page. And by the seventh page, by the seventh institution, I was looking for rope to make a noose. It's like, how are we inspiring people to give when they go on the giving page? Make it a strong page. The content on the development page for a university or faith-based organization should be dynamic, okay? It should reflect and feel like the cause for support for the annual program or for the capital campaign. There needs to be dynamic content on there that changes. Make people want to go on the website. I want each of you to think about your development or advancement page on the institutional website. Would you want to go there? Would you want to explore that? Is it exciting? Does it inspire you to give? And that's the ultimate litmus test. Does the page inspire you to give? Give them a strong page to land on. Make it dynamic. Make sure the content is relevant in the year in which they're looking. Okay, leave no online lead unconverted. What the heck does that mean? What this means is this. You all should have, I hope, some degree of analytical capability on the channels that you're pushing people to. On the channels that you're pushing people to. For those of you, for example, that are using personalized URLs, they're very powerful, okay? But personalized URLs, usually you click to go to the URL and then you click to another page to go to the call to action. A lot of you spend time on the people that click on the call for action. But what are you doing for the people that actually access their personalized URL without going to the second page? All right? Those people click through their email or click to the direct mail piece and they went to their personalized page. What are you doing with them so that the next time you send one of these out, they're clicking through to the Ask button? Make sure that the analytic capabilities that you have on your electronic media platform enable you to reach out to any of the constituents who accessed any of the assets that you put on that page at any time. And if you don't have that analytical capability, either acquire it or get out of the business of putting those pieces in. Use welcome statements to capture and convert online leads. This is really important, and I mean this by two ways. What do I mean by welcome statements? The first thing is, if people are going on to an initial landing page, make sure that they're welcome there, and make sure that the welcome is personalized, especially in the realm of emails or personalized URLs. Don't have dear alumnus or dear friend. How many of you get a letter like that and it ends up right in the garbage can, all right? You know these people's names. The platforms exist that you can segment the data and make it, again, an intimate and personal experience with the donors. Welcome them. If they click through, if you're doing a URL program, and they go into the URL, your program should be set up so that they get an automated email when they're done, like you'll get from us when you attend to this, that says, Dear Anne-Marie, thank you for going on our web page. We noticed that you didn't click through the follow-through to give. Let me tell you why you may want to click through to give. So use those welcome statements to capture and to convert those online leads. Empower your constituents online. Don't just ask them for money. Don't just ask them for money. All of us struggle with young donors. excuse me, and young alumni, right? They don't give. Well, the reason why they don't give is it's threefold. One, they don't have money. Two, all we do is ask them for money. Like the minute they walk out the door, we have our hands out. And thirdly, the way that we try to get them to give is that we keep asking them, thinking that if we ask them 9 times, eventually we'll wear them down. No, eventually what we do is scare them away, all right? Give your online constituents an opportunity to dialogue with you. Ask them questions. Send out surveys. Ask them what they think about the alumni magazine. You've got an audience that has spent in the university sector an inordinate amount of money to participate in the life of your organization, their stakeholders, their shareholders. Give them the opportunity to shape the thing that has shaped them. Look at your Facebook page. What restrictions do you have on the members on your Facebook page? I was on one university Facebook page, and the people can't comment. So basically all it is an electronic bulletin board. Empower them online. Give them an opportunity to dialogue with you and respond. That's critical. If they're dialoguing with you, you got to respond to them. Don't ignore them. No matter how big the mailing list is, make every email a one-to-one communication. Make sure that when you send emails, it isn't to dear friends or dear alumni. You have their names. And if you don't have their names, or if there's a formatting issue, or if Constant Contact isn't allowing you to do it, don't send the email. Just don't send it. Don't send the email. Make sure that it is highly personalized. The more personalized, there's what's called the rule of 3. If you can put 3 personalized touches in the email, you're upping your response rate about 70%. So their name, their class year, and their major. Build the email around what you know about the donor. Select with care the voice of the email sender. Emails are read. They're being read in a declining manner, but make sure that the voice of the email is a voice that the constituent will identify with. If you're reaching out to the young alumni, don't send it from the chair of the Alumni Association who's 114 years old, okay? It ain't going to work, all right? People give to people. People give to peers. So make sure that the voice of the email communication is what I call the voice of a peer. Be very careful on the voice of the email. Here's a surprise. Use only text emails. Studies show that a very simple text email, and the reason why we're saying this really is because everybody and their brother and sister and nephew are sending out emails with pictures of the university, of bottle rockets, of chicken wire. They'll put as many pictures up there in the hopes that people read it. Well, what happens, especially when you have an older computer like I have, is that it gets caught in a spam filter, so all you see is a big red X, or it just gets crushed. A simple text-only email without borders or anything that is laid out elegantly can get a higher return than one that is heavily graphics-driven. Wrap your online fundraising campaigns around recent events. And by recent events, I don't necessarily mean events at the nonprofit, around world events. So right now, and this may seem opportunistic, but it isn't. Right now, to use an example, the issue in the Ukraine, okay, for universities, what that issue in the Ukraine really speaks to is the desire and the need for whatever, and oppress people to find their voice, and talk about how your university maintains that commitment. You want to draw back, especially in email communication or in digital communication, an ask that's hyper-personalized or hyper-local in developing a connection around recent events, and also recent events on campus, okay? But it gives your email solicitation more relevancy. It's called placing the ask in time. Placing the ask in time. Invest in integrated data systems. Here's the problem. All right, what you got is you got people doing direct mail, and then they're looking at the direct mail, then they're sending out their emails through Constant Contact, and then they're sending out, the URLs through something else, and it goes on and on and on. There are platforms, there are technology platforms that allow you to do it all at the same time, so that every campaign is informed by every other campaign, all right? And if the Vice President of Development doesn't want to make the investment in doing that, then remind him or her how much time you're spending trying to do that, and what is the value of your time. we don't sell this kind of stuff, but I mean, what you want to look at are things like XMPie Circle or Mindfire. These are integrated platforms that can do this for you. Guys, when you ask for money online, be flexible. And the reason why I say that is that online giving allows people to be much more flexible in what they give, usually at a higher level. A lot of us, when we try to renew donors, and I'll give you a piece of paper, when we renew lapsed donors online, we always use their last gift as the benchmark. Don't use their last gift. Okay? You're asking people that have walked away from you to come back to where they were. You know, lower your expectation. Your goal for online donor acquisition should be to get them back on the donor rolls. All right? Focus on their lifetime value. Don't focus on their immediate value. I am not a fan of mobile solicitation. I do not believe in it, and I may be in the minority, but here's the thing. My cell phone right now is with me all the time. I don't want to get a solicitation from What's the Matter You at 9:30 when I'm watching Boardwalk Empire. All right, mobile solicitation is extremely intrusive, and if you don't believe me, how many of you are getting robocalls at this time of year for the midterm congressional elections? Okay, and you find them annoying? Well, the cell phone solicitation is even more annoying. I've got an iPad, and it's gotten to the point now where if I'm using an app on iPad, Apple, using cognitive solicitation, will stop the app that I'm using and showing me another app just like it. I don't want to be hit up while I'm doing something that isn't related to this. I can open up the mail at my leisure. I can go to the email assets at my leisure. Don't reach into my life and shake me down mobily, okay? Call me up. I'd rather take the call. Use mobile solicitation very sparingly. There is no defined outcomes that have ever been published on this that I agree with. And I've talked to a lot of VPs. It is a very dangerous platform, and I cannot stress that enough. Lastly, I'm going to ask you to fully explore social networking. Let me explain to you what I mean by this. How many of you have a Facebook page? A lot of you, right? How many of you have a LinkedIn page? How many of you have a Spokio page? How many of you have an Instagram page? It goes on and on and on and on and on. And you got all different stuff on all the different pages, okay? If I'm an alumni looking for you because I've been out of the loop and I've got $10 million, where am I to go? How are you linking your assets up over the digital universe? And understand something. The digital universe where you can put in pictures and testimonial and videos is expanding at an arithmetic rate. So you need to be very careful about where you put stuff. And I think an internal conversation about what platforms you want to be on and what the outcomes of those platforms are is important in the development office. You don't need to be everywhere. You don't. You don't need to be everywhere. And each of those platforms has a specific purpose, okay? So decide what purpose you want to fulfill by being on a social network and fully invest and explore only those platforms that are relevant, okay? Wrapping it up. Don't be afraid to use the annual appeal channels, all of them at your disposal, but use them wise, use them well, and make sure that they're in sync. And if you want Elvis Presley, you're on your own. But I think the king should be in every solicitation. So that's what I've got to say, and I'll take any questions for you if you have them. And I've got my question page open for you. Are there any questions? He asks. I'm waiting. There are no questions. Oh, here we go. Can you repeat the rule about the 3 touches in an email from Paul? Sure, I can. So, Paul, what I'm saying is when you send an email out to someone, we receive an average of 131 emails a day. And I know because I watch my Hotmail account. I get stuff like I've never seen. So Paul from Christendom College says, can you restate the 3 touches in an email? If you want your email read, make sure you have 3 points of personalization in the email. The name, the major, the class year. Find in your data find 3 points of personalization and make sure that they're in the email. And don't bold them, okay? People can read. So make sure there are at least 3 points of personalization in that email communication that you are pushing out there, okay? Did that answer your question? Another one from Paul. And how strong are you on text-only emails? I am very strong on text-only emails. Here's the reason, Paul. Pictures, we overuse them. Sometimes the pictures have no bearing to the email. I get some of those. The other problem is with a picture-only email, it's hard to read them sometimes, right? Because your filters may cut the pictures out. They may not be compatible. You know, they're being opened on multi-platforms, so you just got to be careful about using them. Text-only emails can be very elegant. If you want a banner from the institution, that's fine. But using text-only emails also forces you to be very careful about what you're saying, right? Because you're not relying on pictures. So yeah, I feel pretty strongly about it. If not the only thing I'd use text ones, but use them both. But try them out, see what happens. I think you'll be pleased. Thoughts on recommended length for text emails? Rule of thumb is, Paul, I don't go over 100 to 125 characters. Do we bold and underline? No, you do not bold and underline an email. I do not. People can read. Underlining a cause concept isn't going to get people to give. It's just going to waste pixels on the email. So I would not underline or bold on an email. Keep it short. Forces you to be succinct. Other questions? I'll give it a minute. Other than surveys, any other ideas for getting recipients to respond to emails? Yeah, ask them what their thoughts are on what's going on at the university. Bates is at St. Joseph's College in beautiful Rutland, Vermont. Get them, you know, what did you think of the alumni magazine? We're thinking about doing this change. What do you think? Giving them links to events on campus tend to get people excited. Talk to them about what their thoughts are on a specific project or a new major. Again, it's about giving people an opportunity to dialogue with you. I always look at emails that I send out, because I'm on the alumni board of my alma mater, as an opening gambit in a conversation. So whenever I do an email with someone, I think about how I would talk with someone and how I would begin a conversation. Other questions? Bates, I hope I answered that for you. Frequency of email solicitations, Paul, is directly based on your direct mail program. You've seen a lot of schools send out more email than direct mail. Yeah, and this is the problem. They're using one channel, right, Paul? And we talked about the problems with just using online donation. I don't think it's a question of how many. It's a question of building out a program that's integrated and in sync and that is customized for each organization. There is no rule of thumb with that, okay? So you match, so you match each letter with the mail. Yes, that is correct. So every email that you come out as a follow-up to your direct mail, it should make sense. It should all look the same. Everything should look the same. Other questions? Well, it doesn't appear to be, guys. We'll be doing, again, one of these every month. Again, these are just top-line webinars. They're quick to kind of give you some pointers on what to look at. We will be sending out this electronically and on a print basis through email. If any of you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me. And if you can mail me any copies of any old Elvis 45s, I'd be very appreciative. So on behalf of Cathedral and on behalf of me, thank you. Thank you very much.